You need discipline, vision, and focus. In a world obsessed with noise, attention, and social media likes, I came here to remind you the real work is done in the dark. Champions are not born in stadiums. They are forged in silence. When nobody is clapping, when nobody is watching, when nobody believes. You don't need the world to believe in you. You just need to believe in yourself long enough to prove the world wrong. Greatness doesn't begin when the cameras are on. It begins in the unseen hours, in the early mornings when the world is asleep. And you're awake, pushing yourself forward. It begins when there are no cheers, no likes, and no audience. Just you, your vision, and your commitment to do what needs to be done. The world celebrates the public moment, but it never truly sees the private sacrifice that paved the way. When you look at anyone who's made a lasting impact, whether in business, athletics, faith, or influence, you're not just witnessing their talent, you're witnessing their discipline. And discipline is born in solitude. It's built in silence. There is something sacred about those quiet moments where you push beyond excuses, where you confront your limits, and where you decide again and again that quitting is not an option. People see the championship ring, but they don't see the bruises, the torn muscles, the hours in the gym, the missed parties, the skipped vacations, and the endless repetitions that came before it. People admire the six-figure launch, but they don't see the 10 years of late nights, failed attempts, and relentless learning. The harvest always looks beautiful, but the plowing, the planting, the watering, that's where the real story is written. This generation has confused attention with achievement. Just because people are looking doesn't mean you're building. True builders know the power of secrecy. They know that some things must be nurtured away from the spotlight. There is a strength that grows in silence, a strength that doesn't need validation because it's rooted in purpose, not applause. When you commit to building in private, you strip away distractions. You learn to trust your process. You learn to fall in love with improvement, not applause. You stop waiting to be seen and you start doing the real work that leads to transformation. You get comfortable with obscurity because you understand that obscurity is the training ground for greatness. Obscurity is not rejection, it's preparation. When no one knows your name, you are free to fail without fear, to experiment without criticism, and to evolve without pressure. The dark room is where the photograph develops. It's where your identity is refined, where your weaknesses are exposed and strengthened, and where your commitment is tested. There is a moment in every achiever's life where they must make a decision. Will I build for show or will I build for substance? Those who choose substance are not swayed by trends. They're not addicted to recognition. They are steady, unshakable, and driven by something deeper than applause. And that drive can only be forged in the fire of solitude. There's a difference between being popular and being powerful. Popularity can be bought. Power must be earned. You earn it through the hours no one sees, through the grind no one praises, through the faith no one understands. Power is the result of work done in the dark when nobody is watching, when giving up seems easier than going on. You don't need to announce your every move. You need to move with strategy, with precision, with purpose. Every second spent proving yourself is a second stolen from improving yourself. Stop trying to impress the world and start trying to become someone who's worth respecting, whether or not anyone ever claps for you. When you train in private, you learn to take responsibility. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop needing external motivation. You rise with the alarm, not because someone told you to, but because you told yourself to. That kind of commitment produces a different breed of leader, one who doesn't crumble when the lights come on because they've already faced themselves in the dark. The reason so many people fail in public is because they never faced themselves in private. They never built the habits. They never developed the character. They never learned to suffer in silence and still keep going. So when the pressure hits and the world is watching, they fold. But those who built in secret, they rise under pressure because they've already been tested. Every private decision you make compounds. Every rep you do when no one's counting, every page you read when no one's grading, every prayer you whisper when you feel forgotten, it all adds up. It stacks. It builds a foundation so deep and so strong that when the storm comes, you don't bend, you stand. Silence will teach you things applause never could. Silence will teach you who you really are. It will strip away the image and expose the intention. In silence, you will discover whether you're truly committed or just excited. Excitement fades, commitment stays. Silence doesn't lie, it reveals. You'll never know how strong you are until being strong is your only option. And in the quiet places, you'll learn to lean not on emotion, but on conviction. You'll learn that discipline is louder than motivation, that faith is more powerful than fear, and that showing up daily beats showing off occasionally. Private work builds private confidence, and private confidence becomes public excellence. When you put in the reps when no one's looking, you walk into rooms with a quiet assurance. You don't need to scream for attention. Your presence carries weight. Your results speak volume. You'll never outproduce your private preparation. That's why the most important battles you fight are the ones no one sees. The battle with your laziness, the battle with your procrastination, the battle with your doubt. If you can win there, you can win anywhere. Greatness will cost you your comfort. It will cost you your convenience. It will cost you your craving for constant validation. But what you gain in return is priceless. Mastery, resilience, character, and influence. And none of those things can be faked. They must be earned in the crucible of commitment. So when you feel unseen, misunderstood, overlooked, don't curse the silence. Use it. Embrace it. Let it shape you, because the silence is not empty, it's full of potential. And what you do with that potential determines whether your name will be whispered for a season or echoed for a generation. Silence is not just the absence of noise, it is the presence of intentional focus. In a world constantly screaming for attention, silence has become a lost art. But it is in that silence that mastery is born. Mastery does not emerge from chaos. It does not thrive in distraction. It grows in the sacred spaces where thought is uninterrupted and purpose is undiluted. If you want to become great at anything, you must first become great at being alone with the process. Most people fear silence because silence confronts them with themselves. It reveals how loud their insecurities really are. It exposes the lack of direction, the absence of discipline, and the addiction to noise that's masked as progress. But those who understand the path to mastery learn to welcome the quiet. They learn to use it in silence. They begin to refine their skills with no fanfare, no congratulations, just relentless repetition and focus. Every master you admire spent countless hours in obscurity, repeating the same action, solving the same problem, sharpening the same blade. They weren't motivated by likes or applause. They were motivated by the internal fire to grow, to improve, to perfect their craft. And that fire burned hottest in silence. You can't reach the top of your potential if you're constantly chasing noise. The deeper your mastery, the quieter your environment must become. Silence gives birth to clarity, and clarity is one of the most powerful tools in any journey to excellence. When you are constantly surrounded by noise, be it digital, emotional, or relational, you can't hear the whisper of your own purpose. You can't discern the next step or recognize the subtle adjustments that lead to massive results. Mastery is not just about doing. It's about thinking deeply about what you're doing. Silence allows you that space. In silence, time slows down. You begin to see things others miss. You notice details that the distracted can't comprehend. A master is not someone who does everything, A master is someone who understands everything they do. That level of awareness can't be developed in a loud life. It comes from solitude, stillness, and the relentless pursuit of depth over breadth. Distraction is the enemy of depth. You cannot scroll your way into greatness. You cannot multitask your way into mastery. Greatness demands attention, and attention flourishes in silence. Silence isn't empty, it's fertile. It's filled with the potential to discover truths, to uncover insights, and to build something so strong that it doesn't need to be advertised, it's simply performed. The greatest musicians spend more time listening to their instrument than performing with it. The greatest speakers spend more time thinking than talking. The greatest leaders spend more time observing than reacting. Their mastery is not reactive, it is reflective. And reflection only happens when the noise dies down and the mind is free to process deeply. In silence, patience is cultivated. And patience is the heartbeat of mastery. When there is no immediate reward, no instant validation, and no visible progress, it is patience that keeps you moving forward. The master doesn't need results to stay committed. They understand that results come as a byproduct of faithfulness to the process, a process that is best honored in the quiet. Your ability to endure silence is directly connected to your capacity for greatness. Most people quit not because the work is too hard, but because the silence is too loud. They can't handle the waiting, the wondering, the working without recognition. But if you can train yourself to remain steady in the silence, to love the work for the work's sake, then you are training yourself for uncommon success. Silence is where obsession is born. Obsession with detail, obsession with precision, obsession with improvement. That obsession turns good into great and great into elite. You begin to see things others don't see because you're looking longer. You're not moving on to the next trend. You're digging deeper into the root of what makes something truly powerful. Every breakthrough is preceded by a season of silence. That moment when the artist is alone with their canvas, the coder is alone with their screen, the entrepreneur is alone with their spreadsheets and prayers. These are the moments no one documents, but they are the moments that determine everything. Without those silent hours, there is no public celebration, no applause, no respect. Silence is the soil where success is planted. It's in the quiet where feedback becomes clearest. Not the feedback of the crowd, but the feedback of your conscience. The subtle cues, the gut instincts, the refined awareness of what is working and what is not. You develop an internal compass in silence that cannot be shaken by external opinion. That internal compass becomes the guide that leads you through the storms. Mastery is not a loud arrival, it is a quiet evolution. It's not declared, it's discovered. People will call it natural talent. They'll say you were born for it. But what they miss is the silent years, the practice, the mistakes, the revisions, the sleepless nights, the invisible grind. Those moments, compounded by focus and time, create the public results they cannot ignore. Silence demands self-discipline. There are no shortcuts in a quiet room. You are left with only yourself and the truth. You cannot perform your way through silence. You must become the kind of person who earns excellence through effort. That internal transformation is painful, but it is necessary. Because what you become in silence, you carry into every public arena you enter. The silence will test your motives. It will strip away the shallow reasons. If you're doing it for applause, for money, for status, you will quit in the silence. But if you're doing it because it matters, because it's your calling, because it's who you are, then you will endure, you will thrive, and eventually you will master. Those who can't be still will never be great, because mastery requires repetition. It requires boredom. It requires digging deep into the same principle over and over until it becomes part of your nature. That kind of commitment can only be sustained by someone who is at peace in silence. The world won't celebrate your silent work. It won't post your practice sessions. It won't share your private failures, but you will know, and that knowledge will be worth more than any applause. Because when you show up publicly and your excellence is undeniable, you'll know exactly where it came from, the silence that shaped you. Public victory is never an accident. It is always the result of intentional, disciplined, and often unseen preparation. What people celebrate in the spotlight was crafted long before anyone knew your name. The standing ovations, the accolades, the applause, none of it means anything if the foundation beneath it wasn't laid in private. That foundation is built when no one is watching, when no one is cheering, when there's no external reward, only a relentless drive to become excellent. Preparation is the invisible grind that produces visible results. It's the early mornings when your body wants to sleep, but your vision pulls you out of bed. It's the hours you spend practicing your craft, revisiting your mistakes, refining your process until it becomes second nature. People want to succeed publicly, but they're often unwilling to commit to the hidden work it takes to get there. The truth is, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your preparation. Every victory that seems effortless from the outside is backed by effort. Most people never see. Athletes don't win championships on game day. They win in the weight room, during film study, through repetition and practice when it's just them and the coach. Entrepreneurs don't win when the company launches. They win through sleepless nights, careful budgeting, and thousands of decisions made when the stakes were still low. The world simply sees the scoreboard. Preparation determines what's on it. There's a powerful clarity that comes from being privately prepared. It creates a confidence that doesn't need to be loud. When you've done the work in secret, you don't panic in public. You perform, you flow. You're not scrambling for answers. You've already rehearsed them. You're not guessing under pressure. You're executing what's already been burned into your spirit through discipline and repetition. Preparation gives you peace. It silences fear. The reason so many people feel anxiety when it's time to perform is because they know deep down they haven't done the work. You can't fake readiness. You can fake confidence for a moment, but pressure will always expose preparation. And when you've trained in private, you welcome pressure because you know it's not testing you. You don't become a great speaker the day you get the mic. You become a great speaker in front of your mirror in your quiet place, going over every word, every pause, every inflection. You don't become a powerful leader when you're handed the title. You become one in the quiet moments when no one's watching, when you choose integrity over convenience, when you practice what you preach without needing recognition. There's something sacred about doing the work when nobody's clapping. It shapes your character. It filters your motives. It teaches you that your value isn't in being seen, but in becoming someone worth following. Private preparation builds internal substance. It forges the kind of person who can sustain success, not just stumble into it. Anyone can get lucky once. Only the prepared can stay great over time. You can't control when your moment will come, but you can control whether you'll be ready when it does. That's why private preparation is not a waste of time. It's the most valuable investment you can make. It's laying bricks one by one with the belief that one day the structure will stand tall enough for the world to see. But even if no one sees the process, you keep building because the process makes you. Preparation trains your mind to stay focused under fire. When the pressure rises and the spotlight burns, the prepared don't shrink. They shine. They don't second guess. They stand firm because they've already confronted doubt. They've already overcome weakness. They've already fought and won battles behind closed doors. So when the doors open, they walk through them with boldness. You can't separate the win from the work. You can't have the moment without the making. And the making happens long before the moment arrives. It happens in silence. It happens in solitude. It happens in the routines, the habits, the tiny decisions that no one will ever see, but that shape everything you eventually become. Your private life is always speaking. It's either preparing you for success or setting you up for collapse. People often envy those who win publicly, but they don't study their preparation. They want the crown without the cross. They want the glory without the grind. But the truth is, public success without private preparation leads to public embarrassment. You can't skip steps and expect to stand tall. Every shortcut you take in preparation will be exposed in performance. There's a trust that preparation builds within you. It tells you you're ready. It silences doubt, not with ego, but with evidence. You don't have to hope for success, you expect it. Because you know you've done the work. You've studied the material, you've trained your body, you've conditioned your mind, you've rehearsed the scenario 100 times in the dark, so when it finally happens in the light, it's not a surprise, it's a confirmation. Preparation multiplies opportunities. Doors open for those who are ready to walk through them. You might get one shot at something that could change your life, but if you haven't prepared for it, you'll miss it, not because you weren't capable, but because you weren't consistent. People don't fail from lack of potential, they fail from lack of preparation. Potential without preparation is like a car without fuel. It looks powerful, but it's going nowhere. Private preparation builds resilience. It toughens your skin, it sharpens your mind, it teaches you to keep going when it's not exciting, when the goal still feels far away. It's where you develop the stamina to finish what you started. That stamina doesn't show up in the final lap. It's built in the early miles when no one's around to cheer you on. When you commit to preparation, you start to respect the process. You stop rushing the results. You begin to understand that every rep, every session, every note, every practice hour has value. You don't wait until the crowd shows up to give your best. You give your best in the dark. And because you've trained that way, excellence becomes a habit, not a performance. The public doesn't owe you anything. It doesn't owe you recognition, applause, or success. That's why your preparation can't be dependent on external affirmation. You have to love the work enough to do it without applause. You have to believe in your vision enough to prepare like it matters, even when no one else sees it yet. That belief, when backed by consistent preparation, becomes unstoppable. Public victory is not the starting point. It's the scoreboard. It reflects what's already been decided in the private place. You don't earn your stripes in the spotlight. You earn them in the shadows, in the quiet, in the slow and steady rhythm of work that no one praises, but that ultimately shapes everything you become. Validation is seductive. It whispers to the insecure parts of us, promising that if enough people approve, if enough people applaud, then we are enough. But that's a lie. Validation is a trap, not a destination. It's a fleeting high that fades as soon as the applause stops, and the moment you start chasing it, you surrender your growth to public opinion. You start performing instead of becoming. You start conforming instead of transforming. When validation becomes the goal, you'll make decisions based on visibility instead of values. You'll do what's popular, not what's purposeful. You'll measure your worth by engagement, not by endurance. And little by little, you'll trade your identity for acceptance. You'll become a curated version of yourself, edited for approval, but empty of authenticity. That's the cost of chasing validation. It always demands that you shrink. Transformation, on the other hand, is different. Transformation is about internal change. It's about becoming something new, something stronger, something wiser. It doesn't require applause, it requires honesty. It forces you to face your flaws, confront your patterns, and commit to a higher standard, even when no one is watching. Transformation is a silent process, but it produces loud results, not in volume, but in value. The problem with validation is that it teaches you to depend on others to feel secure. But transformation teaches you to build from within. It teaches you to own your progress even when no one claps for it. When your confidence is rooted in external validation, it's fragile. It rises and falls with every compliment or critique. But when it's rooted in transformation, it's unshakable because you know who you are becoming. Validation will have you addicted to the surface. Transformation will take you to the source. One keeps you stuck in performance mode. The other unlocks purpose. One is reactive. You respond to the crowd. The other is proactive. You respond to your calling. You don't need permission to grow. You just need the decision to stop pretending and start evolving. There is no lasting breakthrough without transformation. You can impress people with your highlights, but you change lives with your authenticity. And you can't be authentic while constantly seeking validation. Validation creates masks. Transformation removes them. It tears down the facade and says, this is who I am and this is where I'm going. And that kind of clarity repels the wrong people but attracts the right ones. Transformation doesn't happen on stage. It happens in silence, in solitude, in struggle. It happens when you decide that who you are now isn't who you're called to be. It happens when you get tired of pretending and hungry for progress. But it requires humility, it requires surrender, it requires the willingness to be uncomfortable long enough to grow. People often settle for validation because it's quicker, it's easier, it's louder, but it's also temporary. Transformation is slower, it's messier, it's harder to explain, but it lasts. It rewires your thinking, it reshapes your identity, it rebuilds your mindset from the ground up. And once you've tasted transformation, you stop being satisfied with shallow approval. When you seek validation, your goal is to be seen. When you seek transformation, your goal is to be sharpened. Being seen might feel good for a moment, but being sharpened prepares you for a lifetime. One gives you followers, the other gives you fruit. One gives you praise, the other gives you power. You must decide what you truly value. The world doesn't need more performers. It needs more people who are real. People who have been through the fire and didn't fake the process. People who didn't rush to be admired but chose to be aligned. People who stopped pretending to have it all together and started becoming someone who can hold it all together. That's what transformation does. It stabilizes you. The trap of validation is that it feels like progress, but it's only movement without growth. You can be moving in circles, winning the approval of people who don't even know your purpose, and still be miles away from transformation. But when you commit to transformation, you realize that distance doesn't matter, direction does. It's not about how fast you go, it's about how deep you go. Transformation isn't glamorous. It doesn't always feel good. It will stretch you, it will break you, it will confront your pride and challenge your excuses. But it will also heal you, strengthen you, reveal to you who you were created to be. And once you see that version of yourself, validation will no longer be enough. You'll hunger for more. You'll hunger for depth, not noise. The loudest people are often the least secure. Because noise is a cover, it's a distraction. But stillness, that's where transformation happens. That's where real confidence is built. The kind of confidence that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. It just walks into the room with clarity, consistency, and conviction. Validation often leaves you empty after the moment fades. You performed, they clapped, and now what? But transformation fills you because it's not dependent on others. It's something you carry within you. It's the deep knowing that you're becoming someone who doesn't need applause to stay committed. You're becoming someone who is more concerned with integrity than image. If you're always looking for validation, you'll let the wrong voices define your worth. But when you embrace transformation, you learn to hear your own voice. You trust your own growth. You develop a quiet certainty that no one can give and no one can take away. That's the power of becoming over performing. Most people don't reject transformation because it doesn't work. They reject it because it costs too much. It costs your ego. It costs your excuses. It costs the illusion of who you thought you had to be to get approval. But what you gain is priceless. Purpose, power, and peace. And those are things that validation can never offer. The journey from validation to transformation is the journey from needing to be noticed to needing to be real. From performing for applause to preparing for purpose. From doing it for them to doing it for him. It's not an easy road, but it's the only one that leads to lasting freedom. God honors preparation and faithfulness, not just the final result. He looks at the unseen moments, the quiet efforts, the disciplined obedience when no one is watching. We live in a world that glorifies instant success, quick wins, and viral breakthroughs. But God operates in principles, not trends. His favor rests on those who commit to the process, who show up consistently, who stay faithful in the field even when it feels like no harvest is coming. The story of greatness in the kingdom of God is always the story of preparation. Before David held a crown, he held a sling. Before Joseph ruled Egypt, he served in a prison. Before Esther saved her people, she spent years in obscurity. God does not rush development. He values the inner work more than the outer image, and preparation is where he molds the character required to carry the call. Faithfulness is not glamorous. It rarely feels exciting, but it is one of the highest currencies in the kingdom. When you are faithful with little, you prove you can be trusted with much. Faithfulness says, even if no one notices, I'll keep building. Even if no one claps, I'll keep showing up. Even if the doors don't open yet, I'll keep preparing. That posture draws God's favor because it reflects trust in his timing and not your own. There is power in preparation even when it feels pointless. God sees every quiet morning you spend in prayer, every late night you labor over the work he gave you, every act of obedience that feels overlooked. Heaven takes account of the unseen, and in due time, God reveals in public what you've cultivated in private. He's not just looking for the talented, he's looking for the trustworthy. Sometimes we want God to promote us before he prepares us. We want the platform before we've developed the posture. But God in his mercy delays certain opportunities not to punish us, but to protect us. Because premature promotion without preparation can destroy what we're called to steward. God builds you in private so you can carry the weight of public responsibility without collapsing. Preparation is how God sharpens your gift. It's where you learn discipline, humility, and dependence on him. It's where your motives get refined. Are you doing it for applause or for purpose? Are you committed because it's visible or because it's valuable to him? When you prepare with God in mind, even mundane tasks become meaningful. Your labor becomes worship. Faithfulness means staying the course when it's hard, when it's boring, when it's slow. It means trusting that God is still working even when you can't see the result yet. Some of the most anointed people are forged in seasons of silence. Seasons where God is teaching them to walk by faith, not by sight, where the crowd is absent, but the Creator is present. And that's where strength is born. There is a sacredness in preparing when no opportunity is in sight. It's a declaration of faith. It says, God, I believe you're doing something even if I don't see it yet. I'll get ready anyway. That kind of preparation isn't motivated by outcomes, but by obedience. And obedience is the language of trust. Faithfulness is the proof. God is not impressed by sudden fame. He is moved by steady faith. He rewards those who diligently seek him, not casually pursue success. Diligence means effort, energy, and endurance, especially when there's no immediate return. It's the person who keeps sowing even when the ground seems dry, because they know God sends the rain in his time, not theirs. Many people want God to honor their moment, but they haven't honored the process. They ask for blessing without building the foundation to sustain it. But God's pattern is always preparation before promotion. The preparation season is not punishment, it's positioning. He's aligning you with his will, pruning what can't go with you, strengthening what must grow in you. Faithfulness is staying committed when the excitement wears off. It's doing the right thing when it's no longer convenient. It's continuing to pray, to study, to serve, even when the room is empty and the results are slow. That's where real maturity grows. Because anyone can be passionate when it's easy. Only the faithful endure when it's costly. When you prepare with intention and walk in faithfulness, you start to develop spiritual stamina. You stop chasing signs and start trusting the sender. You learn to walk step by step, not just sprint toward finish lines. And that consistency is what makes you usable by God. He's not looking for perfection. He's looking for people who won't quit when it's uncomfortable. God honors faithfulness, not just with open doors, but with increased authority. He says, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over little. I will set you over much." It's not just about what you did, but how you did it. Did you complain while preparing? Did you cut corners to be seen? Or did you give your best even when the outcome was unclear? Your preparation matters because it's not just about skills, it's about stewardship. It's about how you handle what you've been given, even if it seems small. God watches how you treat the season you're in to determine if you're ready for the next one. If you neglect the small, you disqualify yourself from the greater. But when you steward the small with excellence, you invite increase. Faithfulness is not just doing a thing once, it's doing it again and again without fanfare, without recognition, because you know it pleases God. It's reading the word when you're tired. It's showing up to serve when you feel unseen. It's continuing the assignment when the fruit hasn't come yet. That's the soil where God grows destiny. The enemy will always tempt you to rush the process. He'll whisper that you're wasting time, that nothing's happening, that you're falling behind. But God's clock runs on purpose, not pressure. And those who wait on him, who keep building, who stay faithful in the shadows, will rise at the right time, not just with a breakthrough, but with the strength to carry it. Every hidden hour you spend in obedience is a seed. It may not look like much now, but God multiplies what is sown in faith. What you water in private, he will harvest in public. The world may not understand your preparation, but heaven celebrates it, because faithfulness is never wasted in God's economy. He sees, he remembers, he rewards. Results speak louder than words because actions reveal truth in ways that promises never can. Anyone can talk about their dreams, their plans, or their potential, but it's the tangible outcome that shows whether those words have substance. Words are easy to throw around. They require little commitment and even less accountability. Results, on the other hand, demand discipline, effort, and consistency. They require you to follow through when motivation fades and excuses start to pile up. Too often, people get caught in the trap of talking without doing. They boast about what they will accomplish, but the calendar never fills with action. They fill social media feeds with declarations, but not with dedication. The world becomes a stage for performances, but the behind-the-scenes reality tells a different story. In the end, those who produce results command respect because their work speaks in a language that words cannot dispute. Words can inspire, but results build legacy. Anyone can promise change, but only those who produce real, measurable transformation create a lasting impact. When your results align with your words, you gain credibility. People trust you not because of what you say, but because of what you have proven. Your track record becomes your testimony. It's easy to be heard when you have results to back up your voice. Results are a mirror that reflects your true character and commitment. They expose whether you're consistent or inconsistent, dedicated or distracted, serious or superficial. You can say you're a hard worker, but if your outcomes don't match your claim, your words become empty echoes. Results reveal your work ethic, your resilience, and your ability to overcome obstacles. They strip away pretense and leave only the authentic. The beauty of results is that they are objective. Unlike opinions or praise, results are facts. They can be measured, evaluated, and verified. No amount of arguing or explaining can change the reality of what you've accomplished. Results speak clearly in every language and culture. They don't need translation or interpretation. They simply are. And that makes them powerful beyond words. Words often create expectations, but results fulfill them. If you tell people you will deliver, you set a standard, but only results meet or exceed that standard. When you fail to produce, you disappoint. When you deliver, you build trust. Over time, results accumulate into reputation. Your reputation is not built on promises, but on proof. It's a legacy of consistent results that makes you unforgettable.